Welcome to this Devil's Junkies emergency podcast. I am devilsdigest.com publisher Hod Rubino over here with Sun Devil Network analyst Kyle Dodd, obviously talking about the breaking news from earlier today. Randy Bennett hired as the next men's basketball head coach for the Sun Devils. Kyle, how about I get your just first reaction about hiring a coach who has local ties here, has a very rich resume, won 589 games, 72% winning percentage, also winning over 75% of his conference games. It looks like when you talk about hiring somebody with a rich resume, I don't know how much better ASU could have done.
Yeah, it's no secret that every time this job has come open, the last couple of times, Randy Bennett's name has been mentioned,
Hmm.
and you knew it was going to happen again because of his ties to the Valley. I actually got a chance. I used to talk at his dad's camp in the summers after I got done playing, and Randy, excuse me, Randy Bennett was actually one of the first people to offer me a scholarship. He was working at Pepperdine under Lorenzo Romar, one of the first schools to recruit me. So I've always had an interest in Coach Bennett, selfishly and personally, just I knowing the kind of coach he is. But yeah, if you're talking resume wise and basketball head coaching wise, you're not gonna find a better coach in college hoops.
Also I should mention is he was 7 times coach of the year in the West Coast Conference, and obviously has very good local ties in Arizona, being born and raised in Mesa. His dad, obviously, a legendary coach for Mesa Community College. Randy did win 2 championships at MCC under his father, and is also known for having not only a lot of recruiting connections in the West Coast, but also in Australia and also internationally, mainly in Eastern Europe. And I would think, with ASU and, possibly their limited NIL funds, which, we'll see it. Time will tell if that does increase or not. But I also feel that maybe that was one thing that attracted ASU athletic director Graham Rossini, that maybe a guy like Randy Bennett has proven that he can really do a lot, maybe with not a lot of resources at his disposal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's no secret he's been able to get guys, from overseas, and you mentioned the Australian connection. Had some really nice players at St. Mary's and won a lot of basketball games and battled Gonzaga in that league for years. And usually, generally, his teams are tough. They're physical. They got the bigs that can be versatile, that could step out on the floor and shoot the basketball. I think it'll be a fun brand of basketball to watch. Making a lot of shots, shooting a lot of threes, and guys that are can play multiple positions. But yeah, I think if you have a chance to, and you're an athletic director, and I thought Graham did a great job on this hire. But and if you're an athletic director and Randy Bennett's interested in your job, I don't care where you're at, you're going to talk to him. So I think ASU did a nice job, getting in the mix here and getting him to leave a place that he probably was very comfortable with and had a lot of success with.
Let's talk about retention of players and also recruiting new players. Let's start with the retention. As luck would have it, and I think that's something that Graham Rossini definitely looked at as he's going through the hiring process and vetting a guy like Randy Bennett, is the fact that he belongs to what was called once the Wasserman Agency. I guess now it's called the Team, but it's a agency that has a lot of coaches and players as clients. Obviously, Randy Bennett is a coach client in that agency. But more importantly, the two front court players for ASU, Masamba Diop and Santi Truitt, are both also represented by agents of the team. Uh, do you think this is something that Rossini definitely took into consideration? And do you think when it's all said and done, is it something that can really benefit ASU? Again, you need the NIL funds, I think, no matter what, but maybe to have, I guess, a shorter connection between point A and point B when you talk about agents that are working under the same roof. That is something that really has to help ASU.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, finding the right fit was number one. But if you have a chance to find the right fit and maybe give you a better chance to keep a guy like Masamba and Santi, who, people forget Santi's young too. Santi's only a sophomore. So,
Yeah.
if you could keep Jop and Santi, and maybe one of the other guys that are available to come back, you just have a head start because you're obviously going to have to attack in the portal and form a roster. But if you can retain some players that have played together, and you know, I mentioned it a lot late in the year. Masamba Job didn't have a lot of time on the floor this season. The coaches didn't have a lot of time to work with him. He just got here in September. Most of his first semester was spent in study hall, trying to stay eligible.
Mm.
Didn't get a lot of time in the weight room. So if you got a guy that could spend the off season here and get under, the new coaching staff and get in the weight room and get stronger, I mean, that kid, we've talked about his talent's unlimited. I mean, he could be a lottery pick. So
Yeah.
I don't think that was the main reason, they hired Coach Bennett, but I mean, it can't hurt if they're part of the same representation. I think a priority would be, one of his first things on the job would probably to see if he can retain some of these guys.
And I know that Randy Bennett is not averse to the transfer portal, but it looks like really his bread and butter all those years at St. Mary's, and especially obviously before NIL, was really developing players from freshman to senior year. But do you feel that with a roster like ASU that's going to have a lot of major turnover just because of the head coaching job not being changed, not so much players not liking Randy Bennett or anything like that? But do you feel that it's imperative that Randy Bennett really does have to do maybe what some Bobby Hurley did in some respects, that just really go internationally, whether it's Australia, whether it's Eastern Europe, maybe get older players that might be listed as freshmen, but really age-wise are more like a junior or a senior. Do you think that really that is the route that's going to be the most effective and most prudent for Randy Bennett, or can he really just bring in five freshmen, from the high school ranks and try to build a program from that building block?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know what kind of system Coach Bennett runs or how he feels about certain things in the portal. Or, that's something I think we'll all learn together. Obviously, he has had strength, like you said, in building a program and player development and watching guys get better year after year and getting guys in his system and his culture and having success. I think he'll come to Tempe, and as he learns about Arizona State and what resources he has here and where he can attack, or what do you think maybe he can attack better or what's different from what his last job was. I mean, he'll develop whatever philosophy that is. I'm sure on roster building. So we'll have to wait and see, and we'll probably learn a lot together about that. So
I mean, do you think it's still important for players when they have a new head coach in place, whether you're a returning player of the program that made the change, or just being a player being recruited now with a new head coach? Do you think that having uh, such a impressive body of work like Randy Bennett, with coaching 25 years in one place and basically going to the NCAA tournament every other year, I mean something that ASU would welcome no matter who's the coach. Do you think that those things would still make a difference for players that you're trying to retain and or trying to bring into the program? Or do you think really it's just all about NIL, 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 and that's something that maybe does resonate with players now than it did compared to 4 or 5 years ago when NIL and transfer portal wasn't in the equation yet?
yeah, I mean, it's obviously different. I think in the past it would really matter to your kids and the success of your coach. And just like when we hired Bobby, I think the kids that maybe some of these kids weren't born when he was having all his success, but their parents were born and they knew who Bobby Hurley was. And hopefully kids pay attention to the success that Coach Bennett's had, and that's important to them. I mean, it's no secret that a lot of this new world we live in, number one thing is money for these kids. But I think the type of kids that we want at Arizona State, and I don't want to speak for Coach Ben, obviously, but any coach wants is a player that wants to be here and wants to play here and wear Sun Devils on their chest and do it, achieve a goal, as a unit, as a part of a team. So hopefully that whoever he recruits, and I don't think he's going to recruit a guy that doesn't fit what he wants. So I think hopefully these kids do understand how much success he's had and how much he's won, and and developed players. So we'll see. Like I said, I think we'll all learn together, and and see what Coach Bennett, what where he's going to attack, what type of player he's going to bring in. We've talked all year that this Big 12 is no joke. So, I'm sure he understands the challenge of that, and he will recruit accordingly.
Now, look, is it anybody's guess if his style of play, which is very different from Bobby Hurley, very different, I would say, from the vast majority of Big 12 teams, is something that's really going to be examined quite a bit in his first few years in Tempe. We know that offensively, he runs a very deliberate offense, slow tempo, low turnovers, and long possessions, really milking that shot clock. On defense, it's a pack line, man to man defense that almost really lives and dies by the opponent's ability to shoot, from the perimeter. Obviously, you can't argue with the results, whether it's defense that averages just over 67 points a game, or just really just a coach that implemented a system that again won over 75% of his conference games, over 71% of overall games. But if you just had to, educated guess, do you think this is a style of play that can really work in the Big 12? I mean, I don't mean, to play the elitist over here and say the Big 12, it's just so much better than the WCC. It's almost, futile to talk about, styles that, can really work in both. But nonetheless, I mean, do you think Randy Bennett is maybe going to have to, I don't want to say reinvent himself, but do you think maybe change his style on either side of either end of the court, or maybe both ends of the court? Or do you think that if you have a winning formula in the WCC, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to fall flat out of its face in the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the Big 12 is we feel like it's the best league in the country this year. But the one thing I know about Coach Bennett's teams, just seeing them play over the years, and then a couple times that we've played them, is they're physical, they're tough, they're disciplined. They beat people on the glass. They do all the little things. They control the controllables, and I think that's what the Big 12 is. So I think his style and culture is conducive to the Big 12. I mean, it's a rock fight every night. You play against Houston, you might have to win a game 62-60, or 55-52 against a Houston or an Iowa State style defense, or even U of A this year. I mean, they didn't U of A didn't shoot a lot of threes, and wasn't real free flowing. I mean, they just beat the heck out of you every night, physically. So I do know that his style and his teams have always been disciplined and physical and strong. And I think you do need that in the Big 12. So that's something that I don't think would anticipate him changing too much, because he's had success. I don't care what league you're in. If you're disciplined and you do all the little things and control the controllables, like I said, you're going to have success no matter what league you're in.
I know there's been so many comparisons to other coaches that Graham Rossini either hired, like Molly Miller, or made sure there was a contract extension, like Kenny Dillingham, or even a few years ago, JJ Van Niel, the volleyball coach, just really being big personalities, people that can really activate the valley, if you're going to use Dillingham's phrase, or just really just connect with the fans that much. And I don't want to sound like I'm overcritical on Bennett, but that's obviously not his style. That's obviously not his persona. But in this day and age of college basketball, and again, not to belabor the point, but NIL, transfer portals, just a different game off the court than it was just 4 or 5 years ago. Do you think that just hiring a coach that is so different personality wise from all names I mentioned, and maybe personality wise very different from any other Big 12 coach that does have success, do you think that is something that, I mean, should matter really at the end of the day? Or again, you just look at his results over the last 25 years and feel like, look, he has the winning formula. It might be different personality wise, it might be different style wise, but it gets the results, and maybe folks should really focus more on the bottom line rather than the optics.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balance that everybody sees throughout the country right now. And I there was names that were mentioned for this job, that maybe were stronger in that area, maybe would stand out in front more and be more rah rah. Let's get the the community around this team. But then some of those people that I think maybe would be really good at that, more of a Kenny style as far as like fundraising. You couldn't really picture them being 40 feet down the sideline from Kelvin Sampson and Tommy Lloyd and Grant McCaslin and Bill Self and TJ and all the great coaches in this league. Um, so I think Randy Bennett's going to stand 40 feet down the sideline from Bill Self and not be intimidated and
Mhm.
coach his ass off. And I think that's number one. The other stuff, the other side of it, the resources and stuff, that's an athletic department thing. Obviously, I think Coach Bennett understands that's part of the game now, and I'm sure he'll. We don't know. Maybe he's juiced to have a new challenge, and maybe he's going all out, and he's going to stand out there with Kenny and Molly and JJ and everybody, and be all in, on that side of it. But like I said, we'll learn a lot, I'm sure, in the next couple months about his style and what he's done. But yeah, you can't. I can't stress enough that if as far as just being on the sideline and him being, like I said, right, down the sideline from some of these legends in this league, you're not going to find a better coach that was available to do this job, in my opinion.
And another I don't know if criticism is the right word that I'm hearing from Sun Devil fans, even when Randy Bennett's name, came up as a viable candidate, is the fact that when the season begins, he's going to be 64. People are looking at this more of a short-term solution, the long-term solution. And look, none of us have the crystal ball to say, oh, Randy Bennett's going to retire at age, 67 or age, 71. But do you feel that maybe that age aspect is getting a little too overused over here? And again, look at what the person does. Don't look at his birth certificate, and that's really what should guide you as to why ASU made this hire, why they believe this hire is going to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too worried about it. I think, I watched Coach Bennett on the sideline this year. I watched him last year when we played him, and there's no short of energy or fire over there. And, I don't think he would take a job like, ours at Arizona State if he didn't believe that he had the energy and the ability to build this thing back up. I think he's gonna be motivated to get this place going. And I think I don't doubt him, being able to do it. Like I said, I think resource wise, it's important that as many fans said they wanted a change and we're just done with Coach Hurley. I'm waiting for all those people to step up and basically, you said you would support something else. And
Mm.
if you're not going to do that because Randy Bennett's 63 years old, then you just need to move on and you're not a real fan anyway. So I'm just hoping that people can get behind this new staff. And, obviously it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy for me. I've had a hard time the last couple of weeks because I did adore Coach Hurley, as a friend, and I did love the coaching staff, and they're all friends. And it's never easy. These guys are human beings, but
Yep.
that being said, I've understood that it's a business. I've been part of 3 coaching changes. My coach that I played for, and then Herb, and then now Bobby. And it's not easy, but and I think we all understood it. Maybe the Coach Hurley thing had run its course, but like it's time now. If everybody said they wanted to get this basketball program going, get this. Well, it's time. So let's get some energy behind him, and let's see what we can do. But it's if it just stays the same and we have apathy in the fan base, like I thought we did the last couple of years, where nobody cares one way or another,
Mm.
then it's never going to change. I mean, we've won. We talked about it earlier today. We've only won like 1 or 2 tournament games since I played. Like
Yep.
that's crazy. That's 26 years ago. So it's not like we've had a bunch of success and then we just fell on our face.
Mm.
This is kind of who we've been. So until we change it and provide the backing from the fans and the athletic department and financially, try to contribute what we can, it's not going to change unless we can really do our part. I think this coaching staff's going to do their part. Let's do our part as fans and supporters.
Well, Kyle, thank you so much for your insight as always. Like you said, it's going to be a very interesting spring and summer as we get into the fall and the preseason. See how Randy Bennett shapes his staff, which players is able to retain, which players able to acquire. I think that much like this past season, it's going to really have an international flavor, and I don't think it's a bad thing because I think Bobby Hurley was able to assemble a really nice roster with some heavy international flavor. So Randy Bennett doing having the same formula, not because he's trying to copy Bobby Hurley, just because that's been his MO anyway for the last decade plus. I think that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to see. But Kyle, as always, thank you so much for your insight, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Sounds good. I would appreciate you. We'll see you soon.